A cold breeze swept through the narrow streets of Tokyo, carrying with it the first hints of winter. The city, with its towering skyscrapers and endless flow of people, felt like a different world compared to the cozy little apartment where Takashi and Yumi shared their lives. They were a young couple, full of hope and dreams when they first got married 2 years ago. But as with all things, time tested their love, and challenges began to weigh them down in ways they had never anticipated. Takashi, a soft-spoken man in his late 20s, worked as an accountant at a medium-sized firm in the city. Yumi, on the other hand, was an art teacher at a local school, her passion for creativity evident in the way she saw the world. They had met in college, where Takashi was studying finance, and Yumi was pursuing her love for art. Their love blossomed quickly, and within a year of dating, they decided to get married. The future seemed bright and full of promise. But marriage, as they soon learned, wasn't just about love. It was also about compromise, sacrifice, and sometimes survival. In the early months, everything was perfect. They enjoyed cooking meals together, laughing late into the night, and dreaming about the future. But slowly, financial pressures began to creep into their lives. Tokyo was an expensive city, and with the high cost of living, Takashi and Yumi found themselves struggling to keep up with rent, bills, and other expenses. Takashi had always been responsible with money, but even he couldn't control the rising costs of life in the city. His salary, though decent, wasn't enough to cover everything, and Yumi's part-time job as an art teacher barely helped. As the months went by, they began dipping into their savings, and before long, their once secure financial cushion was gone. One evening, after a particularly stressful day at work, Takashi sat at the small dining table, staring at a pile of bills. Yumi noticed the strain on his face and walked over, placing a gentle hand on his shoulder. "We'll figure it out," she said softly, her voice full of the optimism that had once been contagious between them. But Takashi didn't respond. He couldn't. In the back of his mind, he was already considering something he never thought he would. At his company, he had access to various accounts and transactions. He knew how money flowed in and out, and he also knew how easy it would be to move a small amount without anyone noticing. Just enough to help them through this rough patch. The thought disgusted him, but desperation was a powerful thing. He wasn't doing it out of greed, he reasoned. He was doing it to protect his family, to keep their lives from spiraling further into chaos. Over the next few weeks, Takashi quietly moved small amounts of money from different accounts into his own. He was careful, making sure that nothing looked suspicious. At first, the relief was overwhelming. The extra money helped them pay off their bills, and for a short while things seemed to return to normal. But the weight of what he had done gnawed at him constantly. Yumi, unaware of Takashi's actions, noticed a change in him. He became distant, quieter than usual, and his usual warm demeanor was replaced by a coldness that she couldn't understand. "Is everything okay?" she asked one night as they lay in bed. The soft glow of the city lights filtering through the curtains. Takashi forced a smile. "Yeah, just work stress." But deep down, he knew that the secret he was carrying was eating away at him. He wanted to tell her, to confess what he had done, but the fear of losing her, of her seeing him as a failure, kept him silent. As the weeks turned into months, the financial relief they had felt was short-lived. The bills continued to pile up, and Takashi found himself dipping back into the company's funds again and again. Each time he promised himself it would be the last. Each time he felt the walls closing in a little tighter. Then one fateful day, everything came crashing down. Takashi was called into his boss's office. His heart raced as he walked down the hallway, the sound of his footsteps echoing in his ears. When he entered, the stern face of his boss greeted him, along with 2 other senior executives. "Takashi," his boss began, "we've noticed some discrepancies in the accounts you've been handling." The words hit him like a punch to the gut. He tried to play it cool, to act confused, but the evidence was laid out in front of him. There was no denying it. He had been caught. "I can explain," Takashi stammered, his voice barely above a whisper. But there was no explanation that could justify what he had done. The company didn't press charges immediately, but he was fired on the spot. The shame and guilt overwhelmed him as he walked out of the office building for the last time. When he returned home that evening, Yumi could tell something was wrong. His face was pale, and his usually